Hello everybody and welcome back to another video of GuigLit, the channel that goes through books, beards and beyond. And we're continuing our series on Macbeth as part of our exam success series. Today we're going to be looking at the next key scene in the play, and that will be Act 1, Scene 3. So as always, what you can do with this video, there are a number of different strategies and ideas you can use that can really enhance your understanding. First one we would say is make sure you're taking notes as you go. That'll be very useful to your future understanding of the play and your retention of the book. As well as this, you can produce mind maps, you can produce various visual forms of learning that will help you to understand what exactly the play is about. Following on from here, either by yourself or with classmates, you can create revision tools from this. This can be an opportunity for you to share your learning and for you to share your understanding with others. Additionally, this is a great video and a great resource for annotating a copy of Macbeth. You may have a chosen copy of the text. I have one myself that I will use the line references for today, and I would strongly encourage you to use that as you go forward with your reading of the play. And lastly, use this as an opportunity to list examples of the characters, of the themes, or of any other parts of the play to your interest. So as we go forward, there's a couple of points that are worth picking out about before Act 1, Scene 3, which is one of the most key scenes in the play. For example, in Act 1, Scene 2, we learn that a captain brings Duncan a report of the ensuing civil war, the battle between Duncan's defending forces that are led by Macbeth and Bangkok versus the rebelling forces and the forces of Norway that are there to join them. We see the captain refer to Macbeth as brave Macbeth. Well, he deserves that name. Notice those words I've deliberately emboldened there of brave, well and deserves. This idea that Macbeth, as is befitting a tragedy, begins the play as a hero. He begins the play as a character that is revered and a character that is respected. This again continues later on when we also realise that Macbeth has a quite natural way with violence. For a hero, he's someone who's very acclimatised to being in the midst of very bloody, very violent action. When the captain in lines 22 to 23 describes how he unseamed one of the rebels from the nave to the chaps and fixed his head upon our battlements. Notice some of the language Shakespeare is using here. Unseamed, like a seam you'll have in an item of clothing, for example. Ripping someone apart from the nave, like the navel, belly button to the chaps to the mouth. He's effectively drawing and quartering him. But not only that, Macbeth then decapitates this soldier and uses the head almost as a warning sign to other would-be enemies. So at the beginning we've got this very clear understanding that Macbeth is really quite acclimatised and naturalised to violence. We see here how Duncan is pleased with both him and Banquo. However, while they are seen as equals in Duncan's words, Macbeth is the one who is rewarded. We see Duncan say, "Our captains, Macbeth and Banquo," on line 34, but then we also see that he asks what he hath lost, the traitorous Thane of Cawdor, noble Macbeth hath won. So we see that Macbeth and Banquo are both referred to as captains, they both have the same rank, but noble Macbeth hath won the prize of becoming the Thane of Cawdor. So as we continue, we need to pay attention to the witches first and foremost, who begin this scene in a close conversation with the three of them. The witches open the scene commenting on recent accomplishments where they are ruining the lives of other people. And I use that word ruining very deliberately because they never seem to directly murder or kill. It's not as violent as that, it's not as gruesome, but it's this sense of a slow torture. We see this line from the first witch where she says, "I shall drain him dry as hay." This imagery of ruining someone slowly to the point where they're only a husk of themselves is really quite evocative. It's slow, torturous ruin from the witches. As well as this, the first witch then says, "Sleep shall neither night nor day hang upon his penthouse lid." This idea of sleep, this sailor being tortured in a far off land through slow, painful, draining, for want of a better term, all orchestrated by the witches themselves, showing that they are, once again, as I've said in other videos, that they are almost agents of chaos. They are characters who deliberately cause misrule and misery to others. On top of this, the witches then tell Macbeth and Banquo of future fortunes, but they have some deliberate vague language here, some sophistry, as we'll come to learn it as. They describe on line 48 the third witch, who says, "All hail Macbeth that shalt be king hereafter." Shalt be, inferring there that he will be king, or even though he has no direct claim to being king right now. In addition, they say to Banquo how thou shalt get kings, though thou be none, on line 65, that Banquo will inherit the throne through his children, but he himself will never claim the throne, is another point where we see a sense of mystery, another character that doesn't have a direct line to the crown, but they do actually allegedly have a connection in the future. So leave some mystery and leave some intrigue along with their predictions. We then see the conversations and reactions from Macbeth and Banquo to this, probably one of the most, if not the most important part in this scene. Macbeth and Banquo have contrasting views on the witches, and we see how, in fact, Banquo acts as a foil or a counterweight, a counterpoint to Macbeth's curiosity. Where Macbeth is curious and taken in by the witches' prophecies, Banquo is much more sceptical, in fact starts to reject the witches' prophecies at the start. For example, Macbeth's first lines almost foreshadow a connection with the witches. Macbeth's first line in the entire play is, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." The sense by Macbeth of using that phrase foul and fair, where we have already seen in our previous videos that the witches finish Act 1, Scene 1 with fair is foul and foul is fair. He is inadvertently, unconsciously, unwittingly using the same language of the witches, which could imply here that he has a connection to the witches before he even knows he does. He then asks them to stay, you imperfect speakers. Notice that imperative verb, stay. He wants to know more. He's enraptured. He's taken in by what the witches have to say to him. And what we see here is, while he's taken in, Banquo is a little more cynical, a little more skeptical than Macbeth ever is. He asks, "What are these so withered and so wild in their attire?" What? Notice that word "what" there, not who are these, but he sees that they're not human, and in doing so and in not being human, that they may have dangerous qualities to them. This idea of withered and wild as well, words that infer that they are of danger and to be treated with curiosity and suspicion. But he also says further on in the scene, in that lines 58 through 59, "Me who neither beg nor fear your favours nor your hate, neither beg nor fear." Whereas Macbeth is more curious and more open to their sophistry and their predictions and prophecies, Banquo is much more skeptical, and he openly says here he doesn't fear them, he doesn't want to beg from them, he will not beg to them, and in doing so he creates a divide and a distance between him and the witches, where Macbeth does not necessarily have that. After they've gone, Banquo is quoted as saying, "Have we eaten on the insane root?" This idea of the mandrake, as it is, this sense that Banquo believes they've seen something like a hallucination almost to what has actually been shown here, whereas Macbeth instead is enraptured, and very near the end of this scene, before he's made Thane of Cawdor, is quoted as saying, "Nothing is but what is not." This has fundamentally shaken and shaped Macbeth's perspective on reality. He is taking everything he's previously known and thrown it out the proverbial window here, because he now sees that there may be a new future, an altogether stranger but more fantastical future that he didn't realise he had before, which is a direct counterpoint, shows where Banquo is a foil to Macbeth's wonderment. Banquo is very much the character that is skeptical at this point in the scene. So thank you once again for tuning in and clicking on the video. I always am very grateful for every view I receive. Please feel free to like, share this video with your friends and fellow students, and subscribe as well. I appreciate every comment I receive, and it always helps to build this channel. Maybe there'll be other things you'd like me to look at as well as Macbeth. I'd really appreciate that as well. Leave a comment and I'd be happy to start making videos around that too. Until next time, however, take care, have a very great week, and I'll see you with our continuing series on the exam success on Macbeth. So take care, all the best, and bye bye.